cookies in the oven. I've checked on the elves. Oh, yes, I have to send Santa's suit out for dry cleaning. Oh, well, hello there. How are you doing today? I'm so happy to see you. I'm Mrs. Santa Claus. Oh, hello. Hello, boys and girls. I'm Mrs. Santa Claus, and once again I am coming to you live via satellite from my North Pole home. Aren't things looking festive here this time of year? I love the way the elves decorated my Christmas tree this year. And of course, everything is all in a hustle and bustle since it's only 4 days until Christmas. Have you been very, very good this year? Have you done all your homework? Have you been helping Mommy and Daddy with the chores? Have you gone outside and helped to shovel snow? What do you mean there's no snow where you are? I bet there is some snow where some of you are. I know you've all been very, very good. And even if you haven't, I bet you're very, very good at Christmas time, aren't you? Me and my friend Freddie here. Oh, I know that wasn't good grammar. So if there are any teachers watching, what I meant to say was, my friend Freddie and I are very happy to welcome you to the North Pole again. Freddie, do you have some good jokes today for the boys and girls?
Oh, you bet, Mrs. Claus. I looked in my joke books all night long to find the very best jokes to bring the boys and girls today.
Terrific! I am very eager for a good laugh. So come on, Freddie, tell me a good one.
Okay, Mrs. Claus, you said yesterday that doggies were some of your favorite animals. So here's a joke about a doggie. What do you get when you cross a doggie with a snowman?
What do you get when you cross a doggie with a snowman? I can't even imagine that. It would make the doggie very cold. I don't know. Would it be a popsicle?
Mrs. Claus, no, that's not right. Don't try to steal my joke, Mrs. Claus.
Oh, Freddie, all the time that you've been telling jokes to the boys and girls, I have never, ever tried to steal your joke. Don't be ridiculous.
Well, okay, but I think my answer is funnier than yours anyway.
Okay, Freddie, what do you get when you cross a snowman with a doggie?
Frostbite, Mrs. Claus. Did you notice that I said frostbite, Mrs. Claus? I'm working on my imitation of you.
Freddie, that's not very nice to do an imitation of Mrs. Claus. But it is kind of funny, and Mrs. Claus does have a sense of humor. And frostbite, you're right, Freddie. That was much funnier than my answer. So come on, tell us another joke, and this time I won't step on your toes, or your roots, as they say.
Okay, Mrs. Claus. All right. Now, let me think now, because I memorized these jokes last night, and I got to try to remember what they are. Okay, all right, here we go. What did one snowman say to the other snowman?
I can't even think. They talk all the time, you know. These snowmen at the North Pole are magical, so they're out there, yep. You can't shut them up. But I don't know. In this case, what did one snowman say to the other snowman?
Do you smell carrots? Get it, Mrs. Claus? Because their noses are carrots. Do you smell carrots?
Oh, Freddie! Oh, Freddie! Freddie, I think that's the funniest Christmas joke you've ever told. That one beats all. I don't even think you need to tell another one today because that one you can't possibly top.
But I got some other ones, Mrs. Claus. You sure you don't want me to tell any more?
No. Let's leave it at that one. As they say, go out, leave them wanting more.
Okay, Mrs. Claus. I'll be back tomorrow with some more jokes, kids.
Wonderful. But now you know what it's time for. It's time for Mrs. Claus to reach into her big red Christmas basket and pull out some letters from the boys and girls. Oh, here's one in a bright yellow envelope. Let's see what this one says. La-dee-dee. Dear Mrs. Santa Claus, my name is Colby Anderson, and I live on Belmont Avenue in Anderson, Ohio. I want a doll for Christmas. Daddy says dolls are not for boys, but I want one anyway. I would like a baby doll. My sister has dolls, and I like to play with them, but Daddy gets mad when I do. He says I should play with trucks and stuff, but I don't like those toys. I like pretending to feed the baby doll and cuddle her and sing her to sleep. Since Daddy probably won't get me one, then I was hoping maybe Santa would. Sincerely, Colby Anderson.
Oh, well, Colby, you have asked a very serious question. Now, it is true that it's not very usual that boys play with dolls, but you know what, Colby? You are not alone, because a lot of little boys ask for dolls for Christmas. It does happen. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen, and I think it's very fine. If you like to take care of a baby, someday you'll be a very good father, and you'll take care of that baby, and you'll feed that baby, and you'll love that baby just like you love those baby dolls. I think it's very important for boys to play with baby dolls. In fact, Santa Claus played with dolls when he was little. Don't tell him that I told you, though. But it's perfectly fine. And maybe we'll get a chance to talk with your daddy and let him know that we think it's fine, too. It's fine for boys to play with dolls. It's fine for girls to play with trucks. Play with any kind of toy you want to, as long as you're having fun. Now, let's see. Oh, and I will tell Santa Claus to bring you that baby doll. Mrs. Claus, care of the North Pole. Isn't it magical how this mail gets to me, even though all it says is Mrs. Claus, care of the North Pole, and it doesn't even have a stamp on it. I love the magic of Christmas. Let's see what this one says. Dear Mrs. Claus, is it always bustling at the North Pole? Oh, yes, it is bustling, bustling, bustling. There's only one day it isn't bustling, and that's December 26th, because that's when everybody has to sleep. Or if you're up, you have to be very, very quiet, because Santa Claus sleeps all day long on the 26th, and sometimes on the 27th, too. He gets very, very tired after traveling all over the world in just one night. So we have to keep quiet and go around on our tiptoes. So those are the days that it's probably not very bustling here at the North Pole. Do you like living there? I do love living here. I do. Mrs. Santa Claus has lots and lots of layers, so the cold doesn't bother me. And everything is magical. I have a lovely magical home, and I love to bake, and I love my husband, and I love my work. And I get to do all kinds of interesting things, and even once in a while, I go out on the sleigh with Santa. So yes, I do like living at the North Pole. If you could pick one other place and one other role anywhere and anyone in the world, who would it be? Wow, that's quite a question. If you could pick one other place and one other role anywhere and anyone in the whole wide world, who would it be? Well, let's see. I don't suppose I'd want to be president. I would not want to be president. I don't want those headaches. I like to have an important job, and I like to be good at what I do, but I don't think that I would want to be president or queen or anything like that. Too much responsibility, and you have to deal with all kinds of nasty stuff, and I don't want to deal with nasty stuff. I only like happy things. So I think if I could be in one other role, This is like made up, right? Nobody has to hear about this except you and me. Okay, I'll tell you what I would do. I would be John Travolta's wife. Don't tell Santa I said that, though. I do like John Travolta. I really like that movie where he played an angel. Okay, but don't tell anybody I said that. Goodness, I think I'm blushing. Okay, an example would be Hawaii and a surfer, anywhere but the North Pole. Well, I didn't say where I would be, did I? I would be John Travolta's wife, and I would be anywhere John Travolta wanted to be. But I also think being in Hawaii and being a surfer is a good idea, too. I spent too much time. Oh, I didn't say who that was from. That was from Cassie and Patty. We are twin sisters. Oh, that's love. That's love, love, love. Thank you for writing to me. Now I see we are running a little bit late on time because Mrs. Claus spent a lot of time answering those questions in those mails. So now let's go to Mrs. Claus's book. Well, actually, it's Santa Claus's book of good girls and boys, and I shall open up to a random page in here, and let's see. Oh, no, I don't want to start there. Don't want to start there. Where the right page? Where did I leave off yesterday? I can't find it. It's hard for me to turn the pages in this book. Oh, I can't find. Oh, there it is. Oh, I had the red ribbon right there where I left off.
silly me. Okay, let's read some more names. Anne, Patrice, Glenn, Samantha, Jillian, Diego, Lauren, Melissa, Norma, Melanie, Carl, Ella, Aurora, Tyrese, Lily, Freddie, Molly, Vincent, Mario, Rosa, April, Terry, Milo and Dinah, Darlene and Kaisha, Bernie and Max, Keith and Angelina, Leo, Jaden, Marcus and Faith, Angelo, Cortelina and Ivana, Isaac and Milo, and Taylor and Jake, Alvin and Carla, Wallace and Julianne, Eddie, Lisa, Anthony, Yvonne, Vanessa, Eva, and Blake. And then down here there's Greg and Gavin, Carrie and Jamie, Isabel and Isabella, Kirsten and Jada, Sean and Philip, Samuel, Ruby, Toby, Tracy, Kimberly, Josie, Sherry, Noah and Eric, Ben and John, Liza and Corey, Amy, Nicolette, Dwayne, Brittany, Sophia, Jessica, Mariana, Morgan, Lucy, Brooke, Leslie and Renee, Casey and Hillary, Devin and Donna. And that's all I have time to read today. But once again, I'll tell you, if you didn't hear me say your name, do not worry. This is a big, magical book with tens of thousands of pages and names of boys and girls who have been very, 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 very good. So don't worry about it if you don't hear me say your name. Now I think I'd like to watch another one of those videos of the festively decorated houses that make their Christmas lights dance to music at this time of year. Isn't it fun to pop in the car, put on your scarf and your coat and your hat and your mittens, of course, and go out and get some hot chocolate, or maybe take a thermos with you from home. It's very economical to go and take a thermos from home and go out and look at all the Christmas lights. And now you can see one right from the comfort of your very own home. Let's watch it now, shall we?
Let me tell you about this house. There's one in every town. It's the one at Christmas time where folks all gather round. Most times of the year you'd pass by and not look back. But in December it'll stop you in your tracks. 'Cause it's got 47,000 twinkling lights and Santa Claus up on the roof, Dasher and Dancer and all the other reindeer, Rudolph's up there too, with a band of merry snowmen dancing on the porch, and a couple of carolers singing by the lamppost over near the front door. Jesus and his family in a stable on the lawn, and a choir of heavenly angels singing Silent Night till dawn. It's where everybody meets. It's the house on Christmas Street. Every year, Thanksgiving Day, while we digest our turkey, the family puts up its display. You can see it from Albuquerque. Papa says their electric bill must reach up to the sky, but Mama says the joy it brings is more than money can buy. 'Cause it's got 47,000 twinkling lights and Santa Claus up on the roof, Dasher and Dancer and all the other reindeer, Rudolph's up there too, with a band of merry snowmen dancing on the porch, and a couple of carolers singing by the lamppost over near the front door. Jesus and his family in a stable on the lawn, and a choir of heavenly angels singing Silent Night till dawn. It's where everybody meets. It's the house on Christmas Street. Every tree is all aglow with a Merry Christmas banner hanging high. It's so pretty in the snow. It's got to put a sparkle in your eye, in your eye. 'Cause it's got 47,000 singing by the lamppost over near the front door. Jesus and his family in a stable on the road, and a choir of heavenly angels singing silent night till dawn. It's where everybody meets. It's the house on Christmas Street. Christmas Street.
That was such a beautiful video. I just love the way those lights went with the music. But now, boys and girls, it's very important that we check in with Holly the head elf and find out what's going down in Santa's workshop, or what's going down in Santa's workshop. Hello, Holly, can you hear me, Holly?
Oh, sorry, Mrs. C. Hold on. Sorry, listening to some of my favorite Christmas carols to get in the spirit. And speaking of the spirit, check it out. We fixed our candy cane striping problem. It turns out that if you put lots of polka dots together in a row, they can make pictures like stripes. It's something called pointillism. It's a type of art style involving lots of little dots. So even though the cane looks striped, we just use all of the polka dots together from the machine, and they still taste as good as ever.
Wonderful.
Yes. Now, about my headphones as well. I was listening to my favorite carols, but there has been a slight mix-up with the Elf Resources Department. Remember how yesterday I said we were getting some new rapping elves to help with the gift?
Yes, how's that working out?
Well, it turns out that they haven't wrapped a single present. All of the boxes are still without ribbons or bows or anything. But they did send me a sample, which is what I've been trying to wrap my head around, so to speak. I'll tell you what it is. I'll sing it for you. Let's see. We're Santa's elves, and we're here to say a rap about presents for Christmas Day. There's presents with ribbons and presents with bows. Make sure the gift is covered so nobody knows what's inside. It's a mystery. You must wait till December 25th to see. So cover those treasures with patience and care. Wherever there's a present, our wrap will be there. Now, it is kind of catchy, but it's not exactly what we wanted them to do. We're trying to figure out a way around this, though, because we only have 3 days until Christmas. These presents need to be wrapped so all the boys and girls can open them up on Christmas Day.
Oh, goodness. Well, I have faith in you, Holly. I'm sure you'll find a solution, although I must admit, the wrapping was very original. Mrs. Claus loves it. I'm a very modern girl, you know.
All right, well, I'll see if we can incorporate that. I'll listen to it on my way down. I'll check in with you tomorrow.
Bye, Holly.
And we're here to say a rap about presents.
Oh, good job, Holly. No worries, no worries. I'm sure everything will be straightened out in time for Christmas Eve. And now, boys and girls, Mrs. Claus is going to treat you to something extra special, a peek inside how I make my special Christmas cookies. Today, I'm going to show you how to make candy cane cookies. It's very, very easy. Now, see, there's a recipe that I found here online. It calls for 1 cup sugar, 1 cup butter or margarine, 1/2 cup of milk, a teaspoon of vanilla, an egg, flour, baking powder, salt, red food coloring, peppermint candies, and sugar. I'm going to skip all through all of that because that's how I would normally make it if I had oodles and oodles of time in my North Pole kitchen. But I don't have a lot of time today. I only have time for a little bit. So what I've done is I've gone to the North Pole grocery store and I've picked up this pre-made cookie dough from the refrigerator case in the grocery store. And we're going going to try to use this and see what happens. Now, earlier, before I did the show, I skipped ahead some of the steps so that I could, not get too messy in showing you how it's done. But what you want to do is you want to have help from Mom and Dad. You want to preheat the oven to 350 degrees like it says on the package. And then what you want to do is you want to have a cookie pan. Let me find my cookie pan, okay? So it's an uncookie pan, an ungreased cookie sheet. And we put it right here, okay? And then we have all of our other stuff that we need. And we take this dough, and we have Mom or Dad take a big knife and go whoop right down the middle. And then what you do is you take half the dough and you put it in one bowl. Oh no, Mrs. Claus dropped some, but it didn't land on the floor, so that's okay. And you take the other half of the dough and you put it in another bowl. So here we have this lovely orange bowl with half the cookie dough in it. And then, I'll put that right over here. And then we have this other lovely bowl in which I put the other half of the cookie dough. Now, this one is very, very special because what you have to do is you have to take some peppermint extract. And you take a teaspoon. Make sure it's not a tablespoon or they'll be too pepperminty. And you pour 1 teaspoonful of this into 1/2 of your cookie dough. And then you put it over here. And then you take some lovely red food coloring. Red is my favorite color. And you take it and you just open it up and you go, whoops, no, this has one of these flip-top caps. And you go boom, 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 boom. And you squirt all kinds of red food coloring into 1/2 of your dough. And then comes the really fun part when you stick your hands in and you go mush, 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 mush. And then you can take a spoon if you want and you can go mush, 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 mush. But I'm warning you, the red dough will stain your fingers for a little while. So you mix it all up. And then what you have is a nice bowl of red dough. Doesn't that look delightful? Now, another thing, you put this in the refrigerator if you are making it from scratch. But since we already had refrigerated cookie dough, we don't need to bother to do that. And then what you do is you take some candy canes. And we have millions and millions of candy canes here at the North Pole. We have a whole department just devoted to making candy canes. So you take the candy canes and you get Mom or Dad to help you put them in the food processor. You put them in and then you hit the button and it goes zzz, 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 and out comes candy cane dust. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? Oh, and you put it in your mouth. Nom, 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 nom. It tastes so pepperminty and sugary and it's very delightful. And it's yummy to have for a snack as well. And then, you know what's really good with the leftover peppermint candy cane dust is to put some in your cocoa. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. And then you have minty, delicious cocoa. Okay, now comes the part where we get a little messy. So normally, I would have what I call here like a nice surface that's nice and clean and sterilized, and I would do this. But instead, because I don't have that, I'm going to just put this right on here. Now, you take some flour, and you just sprinkle a little bit of flour here on the cookie pan. So things don't stick. All right. Now, then what you do is you take your uncolored dough, your plain dough, and you take it in your hands, and you go, and you roll it into something looking like a little worm, and you put it down like that, and then you take another one, la-dee-dee-dee-dee, and you make it into a worm, and you do that with all the dough, okay? And then you get really messy, because you take this other red dough, and you better make sure that your hands are floured, because if they're not, you're going to have a big, giant mess. Okay, so then you do this, and then you put this in your hand, and it makes it a little bit pink because of the flour, but it won't stick to your fingers because you have the flour on your hands. Now, this isn't quite cold enough because Mrs. Claus was working with it earlier, but it's a little bit harder to do the red one because it has all that peppermint stuff in it. So what you do is you lay it right down next to the white one like that, and you kind of stretch it out so it's 4 or 5 inches long, okay? And then you have 2 pieces like that, and you twist them so they look like a candy cane. And then you put it on the cookie sheet, and you bend the top so it looks like a candy cane, see? Isn't that beautiful? See that right there? You have a whoops, you have a candy cane cookie. And then you put it in the oven for 12 minutes. Now, Mrs. Claus put a batch in the oven 12 minutes ago. And now we're going to take it out of the oven and see how good our candy cane cookies came out. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see. So I'm just going to step out of here for just 1 second and take a look and get that out of the oven. Always wear oven mitts or have Mom and Dad do it. I don't have my oven mitts. They're over here. So I'm just going to step out for a second. La-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. Oh, Christmas time's a coming. Oh! Oh! Oh, no! Boys and girls, this is why you must never take a shortcut when baking. The cookies came out flat. I'm sure that must be because I used that pre-made dough that was made for making flat sugar cookies with a cookie cutter instead of using the regular... Instead of using the... I can't even get it off with a spatula. Oh, no! Never take a shortcut when baking candy cane cookies. I don't know what I'm going to do. I guess I'll just eat it like this. Yummy, yummy, yummy. It still tastes very, very good. But when you make yours, don't make them at all like Mrs. Claus told you. Do it completely different. Look up the candy cane cookie recipe and do it with your mom or dad or your older brother or sister or your auntie or your uncle or your grandma or your grandpa. Somebody a lot brighter than Mrs. Claus. I think it's time for a song from Judy Pancoast, don't you?
Hi, Mrs. Claus. Hi, boys and girls. I thought you might like to hear about how Freddie, the little fir tree, got to be a Christmas tree. This one's for you, Freddie. Freddie, the little fir tree, stood in the forest tall. He wished he could be a Christmas tree, but he was much too small. Christmas season had come and Christmas carols chimed, but Freddie was teased by the larger trees 'cause he was left behind. Then came a man with an axe in his hand, and much to Freddie's joy, he cut him down and took him to town, where he caught the eye of a girl and boy. Now Freddie, the little fir tree, stands in the window wide, all green and red, with an angel on his head, and shines on the snow outside. They all agree he's a beautiful tree. Too bad that he can't stay. The children know he'll have to go when the holidays have passed away. But Freddie, the little fir tree, is happy as he can be. His wish came true when he turned into a merry little Christmas tree. Come on and dance with me. Let's do the twist. Yep, you put your hands over here and your knees over here, and then you swap places, hands and knees. Now Freddie, the little fir tree, stands in the window wide, all green and red, with an angel on his head, and shines on the snow outside. They all agree he's a beautiful tree. Too bad that he can't stay. The children know he'll have to go when the holidays have passed away. Yay, yay. But Freddie, the little fir tree, is happy as he can be. His wish came true when he turned into a merry little Christmas tree. He's a merry, merry little Christmas tree. But don't worry, kids. After the holidays were over, Freddie went up to the North Pole to live with Mrs. Claus, because he's a magic Christmas tree. See you guys tomorrow.
Thank you, Judy Pancoast, for sharing that very special song with us. And now, boys and girls, we have come to the part of our program, or I prefer to say our visit, where I share a very special Christmas story with you from my own collection in my special Christmas bag. Let's see. Oh, I read that one yesterday, and oh, look what's still here. Mrs. Claus is very, very tempted to open this special Christmas present that someone left in my bag. But on the back here it says, do not open until Christmas Eve. And that is still, well, let's see, that's 2 days away. Oh, do you think I should open it? What do you think? Should I open it? Oh, I don't hear anything rattling. What could it be? Should I open it? I'm going to open it. I'm going to open it right now. No, I'm not. No, I must resist. You must never, never, never open your presents ahead of Christmas Eve or Christmas morning. I must resist. I shall put it back and hide it under a pile of books. And now I must select a book to read to you. This looks like a good one to get my mind off that golden package. The Beautiful Christmas Tree by Charlotte Zolotow. There once was a city street with a row of trees in front of the brownstone houses. It was a lovely street. Birds sang in the trees. People swept the stoops and sat there on hot summer nights enjoying the stars. All the houses were lived in except one. It had been empty for a long time. The street with its trees and birds began to attract some very fashionable people. These new people did not sit out on their stoops. They were too elegant for that. None of them would buy the empty house. It was too run down. Well, they sound very snobby to me. When Mr. Crockett moved in, it was plain that he was not fashionable. I like him already. His neighbors saw him washing the dirty windows of the brownstone himself. A peculiar man, they said, watching him scrub and polish until the windows shone and sparkled like a sheet of mountain air, fresh and clean. One fall day, they saw Mr. Crockett come out with a spading fork. He loosened the dirt in the little patch in front of his house. He dug his spading fork in and turned the ground. Then he let some of the dirt fall through his fingers. A fat worm squiggled its way back into the ground. He smiled. It's good earth. Something will grow here, he said to himself. The neighbors watched him walk happily up the stairs to his house, and they shook their heads. They don't like him. I don't know why. I like him very, very much. At the end of the street, there was a flower shop. Coming home from work each night, Mr. Crockett stopped to look in the windows at the plants. The night before Christmas, he stopped as usual to look in. There were lots of bright red poinsettias and many pots of little bushy pines. But off in a dark corner of the shop, he saw one wooden pot with a wizened little tree in it. Do you know what wizened means, little girl and boys? It means very, very old and dried up. That's what it means. This Christmas tree was old and dried up. It looked like nothing would ever grow on it. It could never be a Christmas tree because it was wizened. Some people say Mrs. Claus is wizened, but I will never be wizened because I am an eternal child. No matter what wrinkles I get, I will never be old. Its branches drooped and dry needles had fallen on the floor. No! Mr. Crockett couldn't help imagining how it would feel to be that small, misshapen tree among all the straight, healthy, bristly pines. What do you think, Freddie? What would it be like to be that tree?
I don't know, Mrs. Claus, because I am always fresh and beautiful.
Well, Freddie, you never know. We're all getting older. Where was I? I've lost my place. Oh, he opened the door to the shop and walked in. The florist came from the back of the shop. Good evening, sir, he said. What can I do for you? Mr. Crockett was staring at the little tree. A nice poinsettia plant, the florist suggested. We have some beauties. Uh-oh, if Mr. Crockett gets a poinsettia, I hope he doesn't have a kitty cat, because as I warned you the other day, you must never have a real poinsettia in a house where there's a kitty cat. The results are very, very bad. Mr. Crockett shook his head no, but before he could speak, the flower man went on. A potted pine? We have some lovely ones left. And he picked up one of the bushy plants and held it out for Mr. Crockett to see. It's very fine, said Mr. Crockett, but the plant I want is that little one in the corner. That one? Said the flower man. I can't really charge you for it. It's ugly. Mr. Crockett smiled. I want to pay for it, he said. There is an old saying, Mr. Crockett said, as the flower man counted out his change. Beauty is as beauty does. We'll see what this plant can do. The bell tinkled overhead as Mr. Crockett opened the door to leave. Alone in the store, the flower man shrugged. Like this. He'd have shrugged even more if he had heard Mr. Crockett talking to the tree as he walked along. Oh, I love this Mr. Crockett. I talk to trees every day, don't I, Freddie?
You sure do, Mrs. Claus. That's because you're nuts.
I sure am. And so is Mr. Crockett. You need sun, he told the tree, and I know just the window for you, he said, as though the tree could hear him. And next spring, we'll put you in the ground. Mr. Crockett knew a secret. Living things need love and care. That night, the snow began to fall. On Christmas Day, when the neighbors went to church, they glanced at each beautifully decorated tree in the window of each brownstone until they came to Mr. Crockett's house. There was a brown pot in the window with the stick of a tree, crooked and almost without needles. Awful! They exclaimed. Winter passed. The birds who flew south in the winter came back in the spring and joined the birds who had stayed. One warm evening, Mr. Crockett came out again with his spading fork. He loosened the earth in front of his house once more. He dug a deep hole and filled it with water. Then he brought out the stick of a tree. Carefully, he lifted the little pine out of the pot and set it gently in the hole. Then he poured more water around it, so the roots floated comfortably into position. Then he packed the earth down around until the little pine stood firm in its new home. The neighbors watching him thought he was strange. Stay away from that man, they told their children, and the children did, except for a little boy named David, who liked the good things Mr. Crockett did. One evening, Mr. Crockett noticed a small sparrow hopping about near his pine tree. It pecked the ground, searching for food, but there was nothing there. And the next day, Mr. Crockett brought out a bag of breadcrumbs and sprinkled them around the tree. How nice. I like this Mr. Crockett. Spring grew into summer. The hot sun beat down on the little tree. Mr. Crockett watered it each night, and summer slowly turned to fall. The autumn wind turned cold. More needles fell off the little pine and blew down the street. Mr. Crockett put hay around the base of the tree to protect it. The first snow came. It powdered the street white. It covered the steps of the brownstones. It clung to the branches of Mr. Crockett's little pine. But the hay kept the tree's roots warm. The neighbors shook their heads when they saw Mr. Crockett sprinkling breadcrumbs in the snow under the pine. Foolish man, they said. At last, winter was over. The sun grew stronger. The days were longer. The smell of spring blew in on the soft country wind. Mr. Crockett took away the hay. The little tree was covered with clusters of blue-green needles that fanned out into dark green branches and made a shadow like an etching on the stoop of Mr. Crockett's house. The neighbors didn't notice. They didn't notice either that their own trees weren't quite as full as they used to be, and that there were not so many birds nesting in the branches of their trees. They didn't see that with the sparrows came red cardinals and their orange brides, grackles, and a large white mourning dove, all to eat the food Mr. Crockett put out. The neighbors didn't notice that the pine tree was growing taller and that everything about Mr. Crockett's brownstone shone clean and cared for, while slowly their own houses were losing some of the elegance they liked. The children did notice, especially David. He would stop on his way home from school and look at the unusual birds hopping around at the foot of Mr. Crockett's tree. Some evenings he came and sat next to Mr. Crockett on the stoop, and they watched the birds together. The summer passed, and fall came, and fall passed, and winter came, and several years went by. David was growing into a young man. Mr. Crockett was older too. His curly beard was white, and his shaggy eyebrows were white. On a Christmas Eve, years after Mr. Crockett had moved onto the street and brought his tree, it began to snow. It snowed all night, covering the steps of the brownstones. It covered Mr. Crockett's house. It clung to the branches of Mr. Crockett's strong pine, and when it stopped snowing, the white world sparkled like crystal. The carolers who usually passed Mr. Crockett's house almost went by, but David stopped them. Oh, Mrs. Claus has an itch right under her nose. I must stop and scratch it. Oh, see me. We'll sing here too, he said, and they sang. Their voices, beginning so suddenly, startled the birds eating under the pine, and with a fluttering of wings they flew up into the tree. At the very top the white dove lit, and the other birds with their colored feathers settled into the branches like living ornaments. The carolers' voices, low and sweet, made the birds themselves begin to sing. Carolers watched spellbound, looking at the snow-tipped tree, bright with birds, and Mr. Crockett, behind his shining window upstairs, smiled at David and listened to the singing, carolers and birds together. It was a chorus of love, and Mr. Crockett knew that this is what Christmas was meant to be. Oh, that story gave me goosebumps. It's so special. I love living Christmas trees. Mrs. Claus likes to go about at Christmas time and see when the folks have decorated the trees around their house with lights, just like some people decorate their entire houses, like you saw earlier in the program. And we'll be showing you another video of a festively decorated Christmas house on tomorrow's program. But for now, Mrs. Claus has to get busy. I have lots and lots of baking to do. I have to keep the elves fed because they need to keep their stamina up. So I'm baking some delicious whole grain, whole wheat cookies tonight with cranberries and raisins and carob chips. Well, maybe not carob chips. I'll put some chocolate chips in to give the elves a special treat. But I'll be right here tomorrow at the very same time, looking forward to seeing you again too. In the meantime, be good little girls and boys, and always say excuse me when you pass gas.